For over 60 years, filmmakers and videographers have relied on Century's professional lenses and accessories. Whether you need to get closer to your subject, get very close, or farther away, there's a Century add-on lens solution for your camera. Whatever image format or filming style, whether your images are moving or still, whether your content is documentary or dramatic, digital or analog, Century can enhance your imagery. In this video, we will show you how to put Century's new line of 4x4 glass filters to use on your projects, how to create more dramatic images, how to see through reflections, and how to enhance your subject's skin tones. So welcome to the SchneiderOptics educational DVD series featuring the new Century digital video filters. The first filter we're going to talk about is a Century linear polarizer. It's the most versatile filter in your toolkit. When you want to eliminate polarized glare from windshields, water and surfaces, enhance blue sky and add contrast, you need the Century linear polarizer. A cinematographer is only as good as the footage he or she shoots. Professional cinematographers don't rely on post-production to save a shot. Post-production can enhance good footage, but when it's trying to save a bad shot, you can tell. Watch the live shot on the left. As a cinematographer turns the linear polarizer in the matte box, the image improves dramatically. You can see that the mountain face becomes more saturated and contrasty, and the sky loses its edge and becomes less bright. This of course does not affect the model in the shot. The overall reduction of the brightness in the sky concentrates more of the audience's attention on the model instead of the background. Now watch the shot on the right. We are using a post-production color effect to add contrast. Notice how the shot feels artificially enhanced. We are also seeing more grain due to compression artifacts. To get the best performance from any polarizer, make sure to shoot with the sun at a 90-degree angle to your camera lens. Just insert the linear polarizer in the rotating filter holder of your matte box. Dial in the right amount of control and lock it in place. Try not to remove too many reflections or the windshield will look clear. Leave some reflections in to give the impression of a windshield being there. This is called professional control. Controlling the reflections carefully rather than having them take over your shot or be removed completely gives you a professional and creative advantage. And these are results you can see in the field, live, without waiting to get to post. The director sees your work immediately. Besides, just think, how could you possibly mimic this kind of an effect in post without the use of compositing? Remember, all polarizers absorb light and require a 1 2/3 stop exposure compensation. That usually works to your advantage in outdoor shoots, since you can open the iris farther and get a more film-like shallower depth of field. If you want to get an even shallower depth of field, you can add the next filter in the Century digital filter kit, the neutral density 0.6 solid. Generally, the ND filters built into your camera affect exposure too minimally or too dramatically. The Century ND 0.6 solid filter will give you a professional edge by bringing down exposure just enough. Watch as the DP drops in the ND 0.6 solid into the sliding stage of the matte box. Now watch him open up the iris and let in more light. Watch the background get even more blurry, enhancing the production quality of the image and separating the subject even farther from the background. The DP has made the depth of field even shallower by shooting with a wider aperture. When you stop down your iris too far, the image quality on some lenses may deteriorate, and you will need to add some camera ND to compensate. However, you may not need a 4-stop compensation, and a 1-stop may be too little of any effect. Using the Century 0.6 ND solid will get you at that perfect sweet spot of f5.6 to f11. You get good depth of field, no lens artifacts, and glass instead of gel ND. You can also combine the camera ND with the Century filter if you need more highlight control, or to reduce depth of field even farther. Again, adding the linear pole and backing off the camera's built-in ND will get you more contrast and richer colors. Dial it in as needed. ND filters help you get more dynamic range by keeping haze under control before it enters the camera lens rather than behind the lens as with camera ND. But what happens when you need to control the exposure of just one part of the frame? ND solids and polarizers affect the entire image. However, the Century Neutral Density Soft Edge 0.6 affects only a portion of the frame. You can create very dramatic in-camera effects when you use Century's Soft Edge graduated neutral density filters. Unlike the solid ND we showed you earlier, the GRAD can be used to affect only the sky. Notice how the dynamic range is under control, the sky and the clouds aren't blown out, and the water is no longer too dark. As long as you don't tilt the camera, the effect is invisible, and the shot looks beautiful. You can pan and zoom, but you can't tilt. In a matte box with a sliding filter holder, you can adjust the horizon line of the filter and lock it in when it's perfect. In a situation where you're shooting into the sun and you have either bright sand, concrete, or snow at the bottom of the frame, you can flip the soft edge ND GRAD upside down and reduce the exposure on the ground. You can also insert the versatile Century 0.6 GRAD into your matte box's rotating filter holder and take down the exposure on just one side of the frame rather than just the top or the bottom. This helps you keep the scene's overall brightness range under control, especially when you're shooting with a narrow dynamic range of HDV. You can hold detail in the white highlights and still keep the shadows from getting too dark. Let's just say you're in a situation where you have to do an interview with an executive, and he says absolutely no to makeup. But you know that if he doesn't look good, you can forget about any future projects with his company. You can use filtration to help out in the situation. The fourth filter in your Century Digital Filter Kit is the Black Frost Half. The Black Frost Half allows you to soften features, mute blemishes, and take a little bit of the video edge off the image. Notice how most of the unflattering features are controlled by the Black Frost filter, but without getting that glamour studio over-softened look. The scene is slightly softened, and the subject's face is rendered more aesthetically. Also notice that the black parts of the frame maintain their rich, dark nature, and don't become milky gray. This is very important to sell the effect that the image hasn't been altered. Let's just say you'd rather shoot the image clean with no effects, and leave it up to someone in post to improve it. In general, most post-production funds dry up long before they get to that stage. But if there's any left, here's the result. Notice that the electronically enhanced version has lost detail in the eyes. The reason is that there's a major difference between a diffusion filter applied in the field, in a higher bit rate, with no compression, than an image with a few Gaussian blurs applied in post. Post-fixing should be a last resort. Notice in this example how the overall scene changes when applying a post effect as opposed to using a diffusion filter in the field. The image that is filtered in the field is warm and sharp. The one affected in post has lost its sharpness. Also, don't forget that HDV is a highly compressed acquisition format, and rendering long sequences in post can take many hours. This can be avoided by shooting it right the first time, in the field. Make sure you have a professionally calibrated live monitor whenever you add filters to your video cameras, so that you can be sure of your image as you're shooting. Let's just say you're in a situation where your subject's face may not need softening, but just needs a little more color. If you want to warm up your subject's skin tone without softening the frame, use Century's SKINTONE ENHANCER. Notice how the subject's skin tone appears healthier and more radiant without being softened. To get the proper effect from the skin tone enhancing filter, make sure to take your white balance reading before you insert, otherwise you'll cancel the effect. can also add the Century Black Frost Half into the second filter holder of your matte box to add a softening effect as well. There are situations where you'll need one or both of the filters. That is the benefit of having them both in your camera toolkit at all times. As you can see, the filters can be used to enhance many different skin tones, males and females. The skin tone enhancing filter is not necessarily just for creating more aesthetically pleasing images of people. It can also be used to create warmer nature scenes as well, or to warm up any situation that you may encounter. Adding the linear polarizer will allow you to increase contrast in the sky or foliage, and works hand in hand with the skin tone enhancer. Don't forget, you can cut hours from your HDV post-production workflow by applying your color and contrast effects in the field rather than in post. Filters are tools, just like your tripod and your lights. Use them properly, and they will vastly increase your production quality. Thank you for watching the SchneiderOptics educational DVD series featuring the new Century digital video filters. And please visit our website at www.schneideroptics.com.